Good morning, Nation. John here. Can y'all let me know if we're 5 by 5? Didn't I just see a few of y'all late last night during the exclusive live stream? I got a few hours sleep, not many. Rolling with what am I? Frogman Coffee. Thank y'all for the 5 by 5s. What's going on, Wilson and Hatch? Thank y'all very much. Thank you for being here, for hitting subscribe, all that YouTube-y stuff that I'm horrible at. I don't even ask for thumbs up anymore because I don't think it would matter. YouTube just throws us off in the corner. They hate us. They hate our channel. So, but thank you for subscribing. Congrats to Kelly Rodoff for being the first one in the house. Who is in the house? Let's see. Gen X is here. Chief Indian, Debbie, how are you doing? Milton Roots, what's up, Prepper Chuck? And I remember seeing you last night. Worminati, Rebecca Frank Short, Amelia, good morning. Lawyer 69, how are you doing? Tamara, Micah, Monsters Mama, Lucifer, there's a name I recognize. Max Havoc, Buckeye Patriot, how are you doing? Kentucky Kevin's like, I'm here, son. Haters make us famous. Well, our biggest haters, Google itself. They hate this channel. And I don't really know why. We don't make a whole lot of noise over here. We don't bother nobody. Sunny side up. How you doing this morning? Dolly, good morning. Jess Lowry is in the house. Lots and lots of usual suspects, a few new faces. So if you're brand new here, welcome. We try not to get too rowdy this morning, son. Please remember to keep arms and legs inside the ride at all times. Who knows what's going to happen? I do have notes this morning. That's an improvement over last night. I went in, shall we say, bareback last night on that chat. So anyway, are you prepared for a serious grid down this morning? I'm talking serious. I'm not talking 2 days. It's storming. The power goes out for 2 days. I'm talking serious long-term grid down. A year. Could you survive a year without electricity? Could you go a year and a half, perhaps 2 years with the grid down? Complete loss of the grid. Experts say that most people will not. We're going to be talking about that this morning, but let's talk about the immediate SHTFs that you're going to experience if and when this happens, and not to fearmonger, okay, or tearmonger, but at the same time, I think it's much more likely we see an EMP or some kind of major cyber hack than I do nukes. You know what I'm saying? This is personal opinion on my part, but I think that is how you save the land, you save the resources, and you also get the job done from a military standpoint. So the first SHTF you run into immediately is food storage. Ran into this just last week. The refrigerators no longer work. The freezers no longer work. Our freezer was working, but it was, we got through it. It's not a huge deal, but it is a headache. It's very, very inconvenient, even for 4 or 5 days, to live out of coolers, which is basically what we had to do. And we had to put ice in the coolers so we didn't lose a lot of food. And that's not even going to be an option during a full-on grid down. This is relying on buying ice elsewhere. So it was inconvenient. I know you would, Rob. Warlord TV, I know you would, man. You'd be out celebrating by hanging skulls out in front of the house or whatever. Good morning, man. So the microwaves, as I'm making notes last night, a lot of people here in America, we're lazy. I'll go ahead and tell you, if you're not from America, you may not know this, but Americans are lazy by and large. And a lot of Americans too lazy to microwave stuff now. They just stop and eat out every day, but a lot of the stuff they're stopping to get is also microwave. Imagine having no microwaves instantly, not at home, not being able to stop and get something to eat. Many people would not be able to function. Not to call out Gen Zers or anything, but they be in there looking at the stove like not even knowing how to work it, how to operate a stove. And that's assuming that you had, a Jenny or something to hook the stove to. How many of them are going to be able to cook over an open flame? Not very many. You feel attacked. I'm so sorry, Melissa. Sorry about that. So, home internet. How many people in 2022, if the home internet dies or the cell phones die, are going to be able to survive? I've heard that comment so many times. Makes me sick to my stomach. My life is on my phone. I couldn't live without my phone. Well, the experts are saying, hey, they're probably not going to. Heads up. They're not going to survive. Okay, tie time. I'm so sorry, y'all. Especially you Alabama fans. I'm going with Auburn this morning. Woo! So I think cell phones are an aggravation, to be honest with you. They have their purpose, but a lot of people wouldn't know what to do. Hot showers. Hot showers are not overrated. Love hot showers. They help wake me up. They help keep me clean, get the jank off of me, son. And those go bye-bye when the grid goes down. You can get solar shower bags. I mean, there are workarounds. You can boil water and stuff. You can do it cowboy style. But most people aren't going to be able to do that because they're soft. They're weak. They're not going to be able to make it. And the experts know this. What about credit and debit cards and banking in general? We'll get to the poll in a little bit, but banking in general, your money's tied up in a bank, the grid dies. What do you do? What do? You go around and you try and brag people. I got such and such money in the bank. This is why you need to go ahead and give me an advance on beans and rice. Ain't going to work. Imagine that. Imagine instantly. And again, we're talking year and a half, 2 years plus, not being able to use a credit or a debit card anywhere. What about the instant information? Not that this is the greatest channel on earth, but people have a tendency to Google things. They don't know how to do something, they Google it or they YouTube it. I've seen it. I've done it. A library at your fingertips. What are the best medicinal herbs, for example? You're not going to be able to do that in a grid down. Do you have the books ready to go? Do you have the knowledge in your head already? Maybe. Who knows? Washing machines and dryers, when they go down, yeah, there are ways around it. 5-gallon bucket. And let me be very specific and very clear on this. A clean toilet plunger, brand new. Don't try not to use one you've used in a toilet before. But I digress. The point is 5-gallon buckets, you can do it. With new toilet plungers, you can hang this stuff up. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of the folks that are out there asleep. And finally, the POS, point of sale systems. The moment the grid goes down, especially long term, stores go bye-bye. It's not that they're out of stuff. It's that they don't know how to sell it to you anymore. Your smaller mom and pop stores, your Amish stores, a lot of your cultural stores, if you will, they're still going to sell you stuff. Your general stores, they're going to know how to do it on paper and stuff. But we live in a time when people now, if they owe you 22 cents back out of $1, they can't count it back in their head. Cashiers can't count it back. They will not be able to sell you stuff in a total grid down like this. I think that the stuff inside these larger stores, it's going to get shuffled around and reallocated to very powerful people. So this is my opinion. So if and when an EMP hits, we'll use an EMP this morning. For example, if this hits, what are 5 concerns or 5 SHTFs that I'm immediately worried? I'm thinking these are going to happen. Number 1, food shortage becomes a concern instantly. You're going to have food in your grocery stores. Again, they may or may not be able to sell it to you, but I'm thinking down the road a ways. I'm thinking about the production of food, the commercial production of food. Farmer Ted can still go out here and he can still pull crops and he can still sell them locally. But many of the factories and the plants that we have that commercialize this stuff and then ship it out, they're in cities. They're not going to be able to function. So it's going to break down almost immediately, have food. Okay. Coffee maker goes down. That's what I'm saying. There are ways around that too, though. But yeah, that's an instant SHTF. Number two, most businesses, again, they can't function. This is not just stores to sell you things. This is going to be hospitals. This is going to be vital services that you need, that you depend on, that you take for granted. Hey, they're open. They're there. If we have an emergency, we can go. They're no longer working. What do you do at that point? Number three, I think it's a situation that is ripe instantly for crime and violence. And I think we've seen this time and again. People tend to get rowdy when the lights go out. Pun intended on that one. And number four, because people get rowdy when the power's out, especially, again, imagine New York City or any city, 2 years without the grid, 2 years plus. How rowdy are people going to get? Bringing us to number four, it is very possible that you would see martial law almost instantly after a long-term grid down. When they figure out this thing ain't due to a storm, it's due to something long-term, the popo's going to be out. They're going to be patrolling. They're going to put curfews into place, and they're going to try and limit movements instantly. Yeah, what's up, Baltimore? How you been, man? And fifth, finally, communication with family and friends. Your ability to reach out and talk to somebody that's not in the home with you is gone. You no longer have that ability unless you know about pigeon carriers and stuff. And I don't know about that stuff. Beyond that, it's not going to be safe to be out. It's not going to be safe for them to be out. You lose all communication with family if you've got parents. And I also think about people that are, I didn't write this down, but that have medical equipment like O2 concentrators that are constantly plugged in. What are they going to do long term? 2 years into it. I know they have backup tanks, but 2 years plus. The experts say up to 90%. I think the actual number is 70 to 90% of Americans, and I think beyond America, pretty much any country would die within 18 months. And that seems like a very high number. But when you start to factor in food or no food, you start to factor in water, clean drinking water, and ability to turn the tap on and have water versus walking 2 miles with a pail in your hand and trying to get water, sanitation, hospitals being closed, it's a pretty accurate number. I would say 70 to 90% of Americans, 18 months in, they're going to be gone. They're going to be toast because they're not prepared. So this morning, focus on prepping to be in that 10%. It's a very long-term goal. I'm not saying rush out and get everything you're going to need for 2 years instantly. That would be expensive, and you would need a lot of coffee to keep you awake for something like that. But let that be the goal. Let that be the end goal. If you're just starting prepping today, start baby steps. Buy up a little food, buy up a little water, make sure you have candles. Those things are dirt cheap. And then go from there and build it up over the course of, 6 months or so, maybe a year. Because I think it's a very likely scenario. Y'all tell me in the chat, are we crazy? Is a long-term grid down, is that an unlikely scenario? Because I think it's very likely, much more so than a nuke hitting DC or something. Now, that could also happen, and grid's going to be down at that point as well. It just seems like if you're prepared for EMPs and that long-term grid down, you're prepared for a whole lot of other things. If you're prepared for 2 years and you get a hurricane, you're on the coast and you get a hurricane and power's out for a month, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. So let that be a long-term goal, I should say, before we move forward here. Anyway, we have a poll this morning. This poll came from the private chat that we had last night. Vaughn, what's up? Vaughn says, I read someday a while back that in the U.S. long-term grid down scenario, yeah, it's the numbers anywhere between 70 and 90% would die within 30 days. Okay, I read 18 months. No power, no food, no water, sanitation. It's a huge deal because most people have 3 days worth of groceries at home and that's it. So yeah, it's a huge deal, brother. Now I'm no expert and I don't know the exact number, but it'd be catastrophic either way. The poll this morning again came from the exclusive chat last night. What will it take for you to finally pull your money out of the bank? 63% of you, maybe this is why they hate us. We po over here, son. I'm with y'all on this. What money? 63% said what money? There ain't nothing to pull out. 26% of you say I already did, son. 3% of you say I'm waiting on Biden's permission. Well, good luck with that. Truly, good luck. 8%, I'm waiting on a serious bank run. Well, if you're waiting on a serious bank run, hopefully you're at the front of that serious bank run because it ain't going to take them long to shut it down. Yeah, we're getting ready to talk about that actually. It is linked down below, but that's awesome. Orion Hunter here. That's actually next on is it called a docket? There we go. They Live. Not only is it an excellent movie, I think from 88, I want to say from 88, but it's seeming more and more today like it's a documentary. If you've never seen this movie, go back and watch it. It's got Roddy Piper in it, but it feels like a documentary in 2022. Anyway, the central bank digital currency, CBDC. That's a lot first thing in the morning. This thing is coming. I've heard all kinds of dates. The most accurate that I've heard is December the 13th. Keep in mind, I cannot confirm the date that this is going to happen. There's no true way to know exactly. These are all estimates. I did link this intel down below. The intel goes straight over to a Joe Biden executive order number 14067. Does the date really matter in the first place? We know it's coming. They're telling us through an executive order. He bypassed Congress entirely. He signed this into law. And it makes me wonder, is this why the IRS just hired 87,000 people? So what is the central bank digital currency? It is estimated that he signed this into law because December the 13th, okay? The reset. This is when they are expecting everything to go digital, fully digital. Cash money will start to play out at that point. And I believe they do. Somebody said they really live. I believe they do at this point. It doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow. Doesn't mean it's happening. Again, I've heard December the 13th all over the place. There's no way for me to confirm it. But I have seen the executive order. I read through it, and he signed it into law. He basically set them up at this point to where they legally can go in and digitally reset everything currency-wise. And this is the plan moving forward. So, again, if you're interested in that, if you're wondering what the reset's all about or what our currency is going to look like moving forward, again, the link to the executive order is down below in the intel section. You still have time, but that time I would spend putting together barter items and setting up a network, folks, because once this thing goes all digital, I think Monograph probably explains it the best for those that follow him here on YouTube. But once we go fully digital, it's going to be next to impossible to get your hands on anything without the government knowing that you just went out and bought something. This is not about convenience. This is about tracking your every movement, I believe. And most people will just accept it wholesale because, hey, it's more convenient. Who doesn't want to carry money around on their phone and just scan stuff? Well, preppers don't, by and large, because then we can't prep, because then everybody knows what we have. So it is a huge issue. Go ahead and set up a bartering network, meaning Do you know local farmers? Do you know local butchers? Are you in good with the Amish? Do you know any preppers that you might be willing to trade with? Or, if you have a swap meet or a flea market that's very popular nearby, a few of the vendors, maybe go ahead and have this conversation. Hey, you know, would it be okay to come in and barter sometime, use silver or something? You willing to accept that? Because yeah, it's the precursor to some really bad things. And again, if I underline if, because again, I ain't a fortune teller, but if December 13th is the day that they're going to push this thing through, it would seem like they just hired 87,000 people to enforce it. And they have from now until December the 13th to train these people and make sure they're not holding the Glock sideways and upside down and stuff. Some of the videos are ridiculous that I've seen on this. Speaking of ridiculous, Uncle Charlie ain't playing. Moonshine is currency to many, many people. Any kind of alcohol, any kind of vice, any kind of tobacco, it is going to be barterable to the right person. You're going to have to find the right person. Speaking of ridiculous, yesterday, the Pentagon, any fans of the Pentagon, they confirmed that when we left Afghanistan, we left $7 billion worth of military equipment and weaponry behind. Yeah, we didn't run from Afghanistan. You hear our generals talk about it. They said, it was a well-executed departure from Afghanistan. If it's coordinated, you don't leave $7 billion worth of weaponry behind. At the very least, you blow it up. You don't just leave it sitting for the next regime to roll through. We ran from Afghanistan, for anybody that's wondering. To put it in comparison, Pakistan, which is a next door neighbor to Afghanistan, their yearly budget for their entire military is $10.3 billion. So we basically funded an entire year of the Taliban's existence when it comes to the military by leaving this stuff behind. And it's probably better stuff than Pakistan's pulling in with their money, if I'm being honest. We just left it sitting. But your blue jeans, they're going to be taxed, son. And if you don't pay the tax on your rustlers or your people still wearing Levi's, I don't know. If you're still wearing blue jeans and you just bought a pair and you didn't pay taxes, they come into your house. They're going to knock on your door, these new agents. They're going to get their 13 cents or whatever it is from you, but they're okay with leaving $7 billion behind like it's nothing, like it's child's play. They have always had precious metals have always had value. They have what's called intrinsic value. That's a great question. For thousands of years, people have looked at gold and they've looked at silver and they've looked at other things. And they've said this is valuable stuff. All right. Paper money comes and goes, or paper fiat currency, I should say. That stuff comes and goes. Precious metals are here to stay. And that's why some people stack it. And that's why during the collapse of economies, throughout history, when an economy is collapsing, one of two things will happen. Either people have stacked precious metals and they use precious metals to buy what they need or barter for what they need and to get out of Dodge, so to speak, or the government goes in and they start seizing precious metals because they realize the collapse is imminent and they will take your stuff. Even if it's in a safe deposit box, historically speaking, governments will go in and start seizing. That did happen somewhat during the Great Depression, the first Great Depression, I should say. Cigars are a barterable item. To some people. Paper money, what's that? I don't know. It comes in Monopoly games, and sometimes Biden prints billions of it at a time. They're coming. You go and pay taxes on your blue jeans and your groceries and your Bobby Brown CDs. You don't pay taxes on that. They come into your house, you going out in handcuffs. But they're okay with leaving billions of dollars in military equipment just sitting, the tax money paid for. These folks have no clue. Let me get to three things this morning here. I don't blame you, James. Shoot my pups. I'll shoot you, no question. Just put up make sure you got no trespassing sign up. Number one, I need to mention this: Southwest United States, they are going to be dealing with and are already dealing with flash floods. Prayers for these folks. If you're in the Southwest, be sure you're prepared for this, okay? A lot of water coming still yet this week. We've gotten a little rain here off and on, but nothing like the Southwest is going to be getting. So I wanted to mention that. Let's see here. Silver and gold can be exchanged into local cash anywhere. Yeah, somebody would have to be an idiot to have paper money and not want to exchange it for silver and gold. Like if you go into a pawn shop and you got silver, you go in with $500 worth of silver, they would have to truly be ignorant not to give you paper money for that, because they understand value, and they understand it holds value. Arc Nanny, thank you very much. When's the next Shut Us Up CK coming? Shake my head. Shut us up. Well, if you're talking about a flag or something similar to that, I think we're going to see one prior to the midterms. I don't know where and I don't know what. I wish I did. But, yeah, they're going to try and keep us away from the polls, I think, somehow. Number two, this came from last night's conversation. Who should Trump's running mate be? Somebody in chat last night said, oh, yeah, Trump's running. It's a done deal. And I think he is, too. Who should his running mate be? Please, no Mike Pence's. That's all I'm asking this morning. No Mike Pence along with Donald Trump, because I couldn't even vote for that ticket. Grandma Prepper, good morning. Credit unions are better than banks. You just keep an eye on them. You know, I don't trust anybody that's holding the money, but I do trust them more than I trust banks. No, Marcus, come on now. We're going to get to Liz. I think she's going to run as a Democrat. We'll talk about her shortly. DeSantis. A lot of the DeSantis fans. Somebody saying, nope, he's not going to run. Sarah Palin. I don't know. I don't know if I would. I'm not saying I dislike her. I don't think she has the political clout right now. Rand Paul. That would be interesting because they went at each other during the 2016 election, right? No, it's not going to be John Davis. John Davis don't fly, son. But I appreciate it. Kid Rock. No, I mean, to run and win. I'm a fan of Kid Rock. He's uncancelable, but he's not pulling in the votes in the middle, to say the least. Milton Roots will run. I'll vote for that. Steve Bannon. Tim Scott of South Carolina. That'd be an interesting ticket. They hate both of those people very, very much. All right, so let's see here. Number 3. Why do you prep? What got you into prepping? You don't have to be too specific, but whether you're new or whether you've been doing it for 50 years, what got you into prepping to begin with? For the newer folks out there, so they can see that everybody has a wake-up moment, I saw that yesterday. He won't back Trump unless Trump comes out against the shot. I can't say that I blame him. He's more of a DeSantis fan, and I'm actually with him on that. However, if they give us the option of Democrat or Trump, what are we supposed to do at that point? I would have to vote Trump at that point, right? Welcome, Michelle. Thank you very much for that. COVID. Y2K. Here's a great response. I got 4 kids. You got to prep at that point. End of time prophecies, survival. for the kiddos. Maria, to give you some advice, don't prep out of fear. I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not bashing you for it. I'm just saying you don't want to prep out of fear. You don't want to do anything out of fear, because if you do that, bad decisions get made, and you got to be clear-headed. And it's easier to make clear decisions when you're not afraid all the time. So if I've done that here on this channel, I am sorry. Thinking. Iraq. For me, it was a mixture. I've always kind of been, yeah, I did, man. I'm so sorry, Bobby Brown. You got him in a work van, Bond. Come on. I've always kind of been intrigued with bushcrafting. I've always just loved bushcrafting, and I knew what bushcrafting was. I didn't really do it or anything, but I love to watch it, and I loved it, just the whole concept. And then we had a tornado, and I'm like, well, let me check into this prepping deal. And that kind of, that was my wake up moment. But everybody has a wake up moment. I mean, some people, I've said before, some people might come out stacking chicken noodle soup out of the womb, but most people are either taught by their parents or their grandparents to do it. It's just a way of life, or some people just have a wake up moment. And I bring this up again because a lot of new faces in the prepping community, and I don't want them to feel like, they were dumb for not prepping, because everybody was dumb for not prepping. So you're not alone. All of us, most of us had a wake up moment. Yeah, my grandma. Lost Redneck 93. Thank you, but I'm not sure how rednecks get lost. They usually can find their way out pretty quickly. Unless you're in a city or something. I would get lost in one of those. Savage Lee, Grand Solar Minimum. That's definitely something to prep for sure. Grandbabies La Rosa, because you're very appreciated. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. I got into prepping because I came from a poor family that never knew if we were going to eat the next day. I grew up working hard to get ahead, so I would never go hungry. Same here. I was working, I think, looking back, man, I started at a Hardee's restaurant, for those familiar. I was 15 and something months and went out to work because we just didn't have a lot of money. And you hate it at the time. It's weird. You hate it at the time. Nobody wants to go out there and be working, but and to grow up that way. But then you kind of look back, and in a weird way, you're thankful, because you don't take much for granted if you grew up that way. And I had a fourth card. I don't know why. I just threw it last night. It was on my mind. I just threw in an FJB because the potato needs to go. Let me throw it in chat. Good morning, Tammy. How are you doing? So let's see here. School lunches. Speaking of potatoes, school lunches, some of them are ending their free-for-all programs. For those that don't know, many school systems now, for the past few years, it's been free-for-all, meaning all kids can go, all kids can eat. And I'm a fan of that. Not so much of the school lunches themselves, but I digress. The point is, many of them are ending. And a lot of other school systems are seeing drastic reductions in servings. They're substituting weird stuff. Like, how you just have, most of us have that one day a week where dinner's just not really planned that well at the house, and you're just throwing stuff together because it makes sense. To you got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you got beef stew, and you got sour cream and onion chips or something. This is what school lunches are starting to look like. And it's very indicative of the supply chain, because they have the funding. They just can't get the proper food. It used to be about nutrition. Y'all remember Michelle Obama when she was in charge? It was all nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. Now they're throwing anything and everything at the wall to see if anything will stick at schools, and kids are suffering because of it. I've had several comments here saying school lunches are horrible. I've seen a few over on Facebook, and they're just, it's slop. and it's not necessarily even the school's fault. They just can't get their hands on the good stuff. I hate to use the term good stuff for schools, but I mean, they're competing with other schools, with prisons, with food banks and things, and the government only has so much food to send out. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for that thumbs up. Yeah, yeah, but it's Michelle Obama's. Yeah, she had this thing where she was going in inner cities and starting community gardens and stuff, and kind of like chain gang prison or something. You go out, you curate the food, and then at lunchtime you pick it and you go in, you get to eat. That sort of concept. She was obsessed with that. That's her legacy, and now it's just like Randy saying, bad chili and toasted cheese. They're just throwing down whatever they can throw down, and some of the free for all, there are parents that are really going to struggle now because they can't afford to buy their kids lunches or buy extra groceries because of inflation. I mean, the whole thing is a disaster. Yeah, I said I'm on the fence about that one, Bama Jen. I don't know. Um, I'm on the fence on that one. I've heard many rumors. So let's talk about Liz Cheney. We got any Cheney fans? I floated this conspiracy theory last night in the exclusive chat. Please, y'all, don't unsubscribe for what I'm about to say. I'm about to make a statement here. It's not that I want this to happen. It's I have this bad gut feeling that Liz Cheney, that the Democratic Party for the last year, they've been setting her up as the candidate. She has went head to head with Donald Trump. She has become the figurehead of anti-Trumpers everywhere. I have a bad feeling that she's going to run as a Democrat and that she might be able to win the White House legitimately. Because when I look at this, I start having nightmares. I'm like, okay, so you're rhinos and you're never Trumpers, people that are Republicans that would never vote for Trump in a million years. She automatically has their vote. She has the vote of the middle income folks that are in gated communities, a lot of them. She speaks to them. She speaks to a lot of independents. And I think that when Democrats go in to vote and they see Trump and they see Liz Cheney's not going to be their first choice, but they're not going to vote for Trump. So she's going to get a ton of votes by default. And I do believe that they've been setting this up for a while. I think that's what a lot of the theatrics over the witch hunt and stuff was all about. I think it's her campaigning for president. She hasn't announced it yet, but I think that she's been out there for the better part of a year standing up to the bully that is Donald Trump, because they know we're going to need Democrats to flip-flop here. They don't have any other good candidates. Hillary Clinton, that would just be sad at this point if she ran again. I mean, who do you have? You have Gavin Newsom, but a lot of independents can't stand the man because he's totally wrecked California. You have Stacey Abrams. She's not qualified. Beto, he can't win Texas. I think Andrew Yang's out here shouting into the corner or something. But honestly, it is one of two things. I hope that's what it is. I hope that we are witnessing the beginning of a red wave and all of the rhinos and all of the swamp creatures are going to be jettisoned out of there. But I have a bad gut feeling that they're setting this lady up. It's like the WWE. They're setting her up. As I was telling them last night, I'm showing age here, but WWE, Andre the Giant, that is Donald Trump. They need somebody to come in. They need somebody that the left can cheer for to body slam Donald Trump. And she's dangerous because she's going to pull in a lot of votes that Republicans will need in 2024. Yeah, he's not. Who said that? He's got no chance. No chance. But Tulsi would be all right, yeah. Yeah, WWF, that's right. It used to be the WWF before they got sued. Yep. Yeah, it was WWF back then. I'm sorry, y'all. They had to get the F out campaign and all that. Soul Kitchen, thank you. That's why Trump should not run. I'm on the fence on that one. The Dems will come out of their graves to vote against him. DeSantis all the way. That logic makes sense to me. That's the kind of logic that I hope um, Republicans have. I understand Trump has a lot of clout and he has a lot of supporters, but you are absolutely right. If that man runs, they're going to come out of their graves. They're going to come out of their caves. They're going to come out of their little woke enclaves. They're going to be bussing people in to make sure he doesn't win again. Um, if he does run again, they had better match him up with an outstanding candidate that people are in love with. Otherwise, it could be trouble in 2024. But that's on the national stage. I still think we're going to see a red wave, in terms of governors and things like this, more localized elections, red wave imminent on that. Arc Nanny, thank you. Texas and Florida both are moving. I saw that yesterday. The Bible from Such Library and Anne Frank. Book burning. You're exactly right. And I tweeted out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, the Romans tried the same thing. You can't squash it. You try and get rid of the word of God, it begins to spread. You can't get rid of it. But they are going to try. They're trying now. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. The U.S. and Taiwan are holding trade talks right now. And, randomly, China and Russia are also holding joint military drills at the same time. It's strange, isn't it? You have Biden's administration coming up on TV saying, we respect China. We respect the fact that Taiwan is part of China. We're not trying to instigate. And now they literally are having trade talks with Taiwan and have excluded China. What? What? Erica, thank you very much. Trump, great promoter, but shouldn't run again. I'm afraid if he runs again, he might not win. So, yeah, if there's a better candidate, I think DeSantis personally is a better choice, but they would have to match him up with somebody great as well. There you go. Warlord TV. He'll be spray painting GOP on everybody's back after he jumps them. But I was reading this news yesterday. I'm like, what? How could you not be trying to kick China in the groin and at the very same time be over here having trade talks with Taiwan? Because at this point, you're recognizing them as their own independent country, which is exactly what China is pissed off about. You can't have it both ways. Are we going to go to war with China, or are we going to push Taiwan away and say you're part of China? Which is it? Keenan, thank you very much for that super sticker. So I'm trying to read the meme. I can't see it. My screen's too small. We're being sold out because we won't vote for Brandon. I ain't voting for that potato, that squadron chief ever. That was another theory. Somebody said Trump would split the vote. That's another theory that Liz Cheney runs as an independent and pulls some of the Republican votes away. 300 Warriors, what's going on? Alaska Prepper, good morning. Thank you for being here. And we are getting ready to get to a segment. I kid you not, Rudy, right here that you covered yesterday, and you did an excellent job. Your latest video on ranchers. They are warning about beef now, about beef prices. I think Rudy said they were going to be up to $50. I don't know the exact number, but I know they're getting ready to go up astronomically, the prices of beef. And so folks, be prepared for this. Not just the beef, but as we were talking about the other morning, when people can't afford beef, it seems like they're pivoting over to chicken and poultry. And then when that gets too expensive, now they're pivoting over to fish and things. So it's going to have a chain reaction, I think. Some people love their steaks. They're not going to do without them. $50 a pound ain't nothing to them. I'm going to have to pivot off unless we're talking about bologna. Bologna will be the new steak around here at $50 a pound. But ranchers and also farmers, they are dealing with inflation and they're dealing with drought. And drought, I think, was what Rudy was hitting on yesterday. Substantial droughts going on, just dry all over the place where it normally is not. And also feed. Think it's a chain reaction because when you are raising cattle, they have to eat, and if everything else is going up, it costs them more to stay in business. This is why so many ranchers and farmers are getting out of it. But the ones that are still there, it costs them more. The cost of business goes up. And when the cost of business goes up, that gets passed down to the consumer. I mean, that's just smart business. If you don't do that, you go out of business. And so they have to do it. The feed, the fuel. I would run as Rudy's vice president, but I still wouldn't fly. I would have to stay, over on the East Coast somewhere. Rudy probably don't have a problem flying. But yeah, domino effect. You're exactly right. All this stuff is dominoing down. We have been seeing the effects of the lockdown, and we've said this for a while now, but what we are starting to get into now is the effects of the lockdown, if that makes sense. It's a chain reaction, and that's why it continues to get more expensive to live, and there's less and less and less to go around. It's hard to put a number on it for me, but again, I'm not a farmer. I'm not a rancher. He has some really good intel over there. Again, it's his latest video. He linked straight to the intel. I went and I read the intel, and you got that many farmers and that many ranchers saying, hey, we have a serious problem. There's probably a serious problem. And that's something preppers should know about. You got to know what's going on so you can prepare for it accordingly, right? So that is all I have. I'm going to get into the chat. I just wanted to update y'all on K-Man James. He was in our private chat last night for a little while. I think he fell asleep. He was not let go over the booster shot. I thought that's what had happened. At his work, they restructured everything, and they were going to knock people down to part-time, and he was going to lose his insurance, and he went caveman on him and almost got arrested. So that's the 411 over there. I don't know the rest. I haven't seen him, but I talked to him online last night for a while. Caveman, he's something else, isn't he? And this is one thing that you'll hear. Places are hiring like crazy, and they are, but many places, again, because of the chain reaction, because things cost more and the cost of businesses went up, cost of insurances went up. Many places now, they're doing the same thing. They're restructuring. They're trying to knock people out of maybe 401k or insurance and stuff, or knock them down to part-time. So a lot of places that are hiring are only hiring part-time, and it may seem like there are jobs everywhere, but I don't blame people for not jumping on 20 hours a week. If they need the money in order to live and they just don't know what else to do, then go work 20 hours a week. But a lot of people can't survive on that 20 or 25 hours a week. So they're looking for, I guess, more gainful employment would be the way to put it. No, he basically said some choice words that I can't repeat here. He flew the international peace sign right in his boss's face. He then took his shoes off and walked out the door and walked home. So he's in the process of looking. Big Mama Stev, how are you doing? Rebecca, many places advertise hiring just to make it look good, but aren't. I've heard the same thing here locally. I've heard people on Facebook, they'll say we're hiring and stuff, and people will get on there. There'll be huge threads saying, I've applied, you never called back, you've never called back. I don't know what the deal with that is. Maybe they're just trying to get people to bust the doors down so they can get the best candidates possible. I don't really know. That was happening, Quack. We were charged an extra 150 for not getting the jab. And I think the cover story on, I'm gonna call it a cover story on that one, was they're saying that your insurance was going to be, it's going to cost the insurance company more. So now we need to penalize you, that sort of thing. They were trying to pull off all kinds of stuff. Um, yeah, and that was the biggest issue I know with James, because he was there basically for the insurance anyway. Wasn't about the money, and it's not about the money for a lot of people. People need insurance. Going to the doctor and stuff is not cheap. And especially right now with groceries and gas and everything else through the roof, people can't afford not to have insurance or to lose their insurance. Um, yeah, it's the domino effect, as somebody said, we the people. Fuel prices is what's jacking the price of everything up. Again, the chain reaction, and it starts with the fuel, the production cost and the fuel to transport it from point A to point B. And there's no way around it. I mean, it's because we have people in charge of the supply chain that aren't qualified to be in charge of the supply chain. Mender Mom says, my son can't get hired anywhere. Tons of signs, but no callbacks. Yeah. Art Nanny, I really don't know. I don't know what's going on with any of that. As I was telling folks last night, the warrant and the affidavit and stuff, I don't know why it can't all be public. Why not just throw it all out there? Trump seems like he wants it thrown all out there, like he has nothing to hide. He's saying, tell the world the truth. And there, as I was saying last night, it seems like our government is going through and they're trying to figure out which lines to black out and stuff. They're saying for national security and maybe, but we have no way of knowing. I'm not really in the business anymore of taking the government at their word. I used to be that stupid and naive, but not anymore. That's their excuse for bad service. Duckman, we literally have restaurants here still that have not opened the lobby because they're afraid of the C-19. The lobbies are still closed because they're afraid of this thing that is now, 2 years old. This thing is old enough. The C-19 is getting to that age where it's old enough to enroll it in preschool. That's how long we've been dealing with this stuff. And they're still, I don't know how they're still in business. The drive-throughs are wrapped around the store 15 times and they will not open the lobby. Some sit-down restaurants and everything are pickup only. You can only use certain words in a document and make it look either way, good or bad. So I suspect what happened is there was really no good cause to go to Mar-a-Lago and have this search. And they knew it and they greenlit it anyway. And now, they're saying we have documents, but you can't see them and all this stuff. And he's like, release it, release everything. Let the world see why you came down and hassled me for nothing. But I could, again, could be totally wrong on that. Maybe they got a ton of dirt on him. If they do, I don't know why they're holding it back though. Other than the midterm elections, maybe. I saw a double masker in Costco last week, and I want to be very clear. I've seen that too, Force. I want to be very clear. Some people have to have masks on because of their immune systems and stuff. So I'm not throwing shade at any of those folks. I get that some people, honest to God, cannot afford to get sick or get any kind of illness, but you can usually tell when people are scared, and it's because of the C-19. You can tell by the way they walk, by the way they dress, the gauntlet gloves when they're pumping gas. I'm talking about the huge rubber gloves that come up to the elbows and stuff. You can spot them. There is a huge difference. And they're out there. I think so, Rebecca, because it's cheaper to not staff enough people to cover inside service. And I sort of believe that we're headed for a world where they're going to get away from sit-down restaurants altogether. You may have a few, But I think your fast food chains, especially, I think they're going to get away from it. I think the pandemic has taught them it's a lot cheaper to overwork the employees you have no dining room, and have drive-through only or pickup only. The cost of business goes down, in other words. Beaverines. You can tell the type for sure. And Milton roots, I mean, I understand in certain cases, like I was saying, the folks that are compromised, their immune system. I can see if somebody is doing an Uber and they're driving all day and they're picking up different people all day long. And it may not even be due to the COVID. It may be due to the seasonal flu, if that still exists, or anything. But other times you can just tell. People walking a dog and they got 3 masks on, something ain't right. Something has been ruined upstairs. And it's probably due to CNN, if I had to put a finger on it. I know that struggle. Thank you very much for being here, Rudy. I know that struggle of running kids back and forth. Have a good day. Some people did. People got used to not working, Carrie said. Some people did, and some people were smart enough, I think, to use it as an opportunity. Maybe they were in a job they didn't really care for, or it didn't have great benefits, and maybe they shopped around, they found a better job, and they just ain't going back. And then you have to factor in also people that got disqualified because they weren't willing to take the whiskey shot. I know this was huge in education and the medical field, and some people just walked away. Police officers even just walked away, said, "No, I've got no interest in it. I'll go find something else to do." So some of the shortages were created out of ignorance, and honestly. TRAS, I'll close with that. It's ramping up here as well. We've seen a lot more cases. I was just telling the crowd, my son's been not feeling too great for the past few days. He's tested a couple of times. His mom's tested him for that, and he's tested negative every time. But it is ramping up here. But as I was explaining to my wife, and she knows, it's not the same thing it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, when the red bars were all over the TV and the red alerts were all over the place, and y'all remember the propaganda on TV, the circles in Central Park and stuff that were exactly 6 feet apart, that you had to stay in kind of like your own little bubble, the meat lockers that they were pulling up out in front of businesses and stuff. It's not the same thing anymore. And I would argue that it was never that bad to begin with. But I mean, here and now, does anybody get the regular flu anymore? Because to me, that's what it seems like in 2022, the regular flu. Not a, what they call them, son, a virologist or whatever. I'm not one of those. But yeah, TV lied to us, Gloria said. TV does that quite a bit. TV does it quite a bit. If Ink Scars is in here, he can give you the, is he in here, Bama Jan? I'm not sure. He should have the invite link. Unfortunately, doctor, there is a doctor in the house, and this is a good one. They're a doctor twice. I don't have the direct link with me, or I would kick it out to you. The next time you see Ink Scars in here, ask, and he can give you the direct link. Yeah, Hair God 1961. I'm sorry to hear that. My husband currently has COVID. So far, I'm still good. But luckily, this thing has lost a lot of its steam over the past couple of years. But it is, y'all are right. Dalton says, friend of mine just tested positive for COVID yesterday. It is ramping up, but it seems like people are just feeling a little under the weather with it for a few days, and then they seem to be over it. COVID ate the flu. I've heard that before. I mean, it had to go somewhere. You know, you go to any doctor or anything now, they'll test you. They'll test you twice or three times for the COVID before they even start thinking about anything else. You know, you go in, you got a little hitch in your giddy up, your knees locked up or something. They testing you for COVID. Buck Fiden, thank you very much. I had to say that slowly so I didn't get it mixed up. Almost did it anyway. Yeah, that is where we need to close. Max Havoc, I saw that early this morning. Biden builds his own wall. The Department of Homeland Security awarded a Delaware company $490,000 to build a fence. This is going around one of Biden's properties, his own properties, $500,000. He's putting up a fence because walls don't work, but fences do, apparently, especially when the taxpayers are paying for it. Bama Jen, thank you. There is the Telegram link for anybody that was wanting it, the direct link. Folks, this is John with Prepper Nation. I'm John. Y'all are Prepper Nation, of course. Thank y'all very much for being here. And I will see you. Let me see here. What is today, y'all? Friday? Okay. It is Friday. I'll see y'all Monday. God bless.